Shalom Elohim, Yisrael, Yehonathan Dawid with you here humbly so once again on what's going to be released on the 17th of March 2024 in the year of their Lord. The next installment of the B'mil Otah Shali series. This is Yehonathan Dawid, Yahweh for Hebrews and Christians. They arrived at Gethsemane. This is the 67th installment. Wow, what a long episode. But now we are in Gethsemane. And just a reminder, Pesach 2024, the new moon has already happened. It was on March the 10th. It came at 5 a.m. And then we look for Abib, which should be around the 17th of March. And we will have a service here on Yahweh for Christians. And then after that, you have a week later, 3/25, March 25th, at around 3 a.m. should be Passover. And we will have a service, a Pesach service, and we will have a small snippet for 7 days during the unleavened bread. Last week, we talked about that mile-long journey from Jerusalem up to that tree. The tree that Yahushua eventually sacrificed himself on in the Garden of Gethsemane. This is the portal to the tree of life. Yahushua is going back up there after the so-called Last Supper. We realized that was a new world order meal, going from the old covenant to the new. So we want to open up. Why was the sacrifice outside of Jerusalem instead of inside of Jerusalem? Let's look at Hebrews 13. Let's open up on Hebrews 13. Uh, 11 to 13. And why was the sacrifice outside of the camp? Hebrews 13, 11 to 13 reads, because the bodies of those animals whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest for sin are burned outside the camp. Therefore, Yahushua also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered outside the gate. Verse 13, therefore let us go forth to him outside the camp, bearing his reproach. So you see that, the ruddy heifer was sacrificed not right across the road from the tree that Yahushua sacrificed himself on, to the east of the temple. And the high priest could look up and see when the ruddy heifer sacrifice was made, and he had to be able to see it from where he was before he made his sacrifice for Jerusalem. So Yahushua was the ruddy heifer also that purified to clean the people, but that was burned outside of the camp. Across the road is the tree, the almond tree on the garden in the Mount of Olives. The Yahushua sacrificed himself, which represents the tree of life. So that was outside of the camp. And then the record says that we need to bear his reproach and go out there with him. If you go back 2 chapters, go back to chapter 11, verses 35 to 38 of the book of Hebrews. Chapter 11, 35 to 38. Talking about this sacrifice done outside of the camp of the city of David. Verse 35. Others were women received their dead, raised. This is talking about the faith of those in the past who've overcome by their faith. I'm going to pick up the narrative on verse 35. Women received their dead, raised to life again. Others were tortured, not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain a better resurrection. Still others had trial of mockings and scourgings, yes, and of chains and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn in two, were tempted, were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and mountains, in dens and caves of the earth. Yisrael was not worthy. They was not worthy of the righteous among them. And here Yahweh is about to sacrifice. Remember, Yahweh says it is too small of a thing for you to be sacrificed just for Yisrael. This sacrifice is going to bring back the whole world of my people to me that has been scattered. So it's going to bring back Yehuda and Yisrael. So the sacrifice goes outside the camp, because in this new world order, this new covenant is for Yehuda and Yisrael. It's for all of them. So this is why the sacrifice is outside of the camp. It goes after the Matthew 10:13-14, where when Yahweh sent the disciples out to teach the Besorah. What did he say in Matthew 10:13? Actually, 13 and 14. Let me go ahead and read that. I wasn't going to read it. Let's see here. Matthew 10. This is Yahweh speaking. And when he sends out the 12. If the household is worthy, let your shalom come on it. But if it is not worthy, let your shalom return to you. And whoever will not receive you, nor hear your words, when you depart from that house or city, shake off the dust from your feet. There you go. So Yahweh walks outside of Jerusalem after that New World Order meal and goes up the Mount of Olives. He shook off his dust. And remember, he said, your house has been left to you desolate. He said that just 4 days prior to this. Their house has been left to them desolate. And he walks up and away. He shook off the dust of his feet from Yehuda. Of course, we know he's going to resurrect and reconcile them back. But this is a symbol. Let's stick into Matthew 10 and go down to verse 38. Let's stay here in this chapter and go to verse 38. Yahweh was speaking. And he who does not take his burden and follow after me is not worthy of me. Well, if we follow after Yahweh like the 11 disciples did, what did they do? They followed Yahweh outside of the camp and up the Mount of Olives and into the Garden of Gethsemane. So that is what we're doing. We are going to have to leave this old covenant, go up and accept Yahweh as the access to Yahweh, the new covenant. We need to leave the old and press forward to the new. And we know this is a portal. This is a portal from the beginning. In Acts 1, 9-11, this is where the ascension was. Second witness is Zechariah 14:4. Yahweh is going to return to this same spot. Split the Mount of Olives in two. It's going to be a flat plain. So this whole area is a portal. Just like down below the mountain, that fig tree of self-righteousness that Adam and Eve used is a portal. And that's the tree that Yehuda is going to hang himself on. So now we're going to pick up our story. They arrive at Gethsemane. Now in Luke 22, I want to pick up on this prayer. Yahweh prays 3 times. He prays 3 times. And let's pick up the narrative in Luke's narrative. Chapter 22, verses 39-46. This is the prayer in the garden. Coming out, he went to the Mount of Olives, as he was accustomed, and his disciples also followed him. When he came to the place, he said to them, pray that you may not enter into temptation. And as he was withdrawn from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and prayed, saying, Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. Then a Malach appeared to him from Hashemayim, strengthening him. Now see here, Yahushua has on a tent of flesh. He is eternal, but he put on the limits of flesh. So with flesh, he could not endure this. It took a malak from Hashemayim to come down and strengthen him, and infuse strengthen him to continue to do what the spirit, the Ruach, was willing to do. Remember, he said the Ruach is willing, but the flesh is weak. So Yahushua bore flesh just like you and I. And the flesh was too weak to endure this. So he had to get infusion, the same way you and I can get it. No different. You and I can call on the powers from heaven. And your angel, you have at least one angel with each of us, will come down and still power into you to continue on, because your spirit wants to do what's right. None of us wants to do wickedness and evil. We want to do what is right. Pray that Yahweh strengthens your heart to do his will, and he will send you to help to do his way. Verse 44, and being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. Then his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. Remember, Gethsemane is the olive press. Yahushua is the Ruach, and the olive, he was pressing. It was pressing him. This was sweat. It wasn't blood, but it was like anointing. The anointing was covering him. The anointing, the olive anointing, was covering him. Remember Aaron's rod? That was an olive rod that budded almonds. So he is the olive, and he's going to sacrifice his life on an almond tree. So this is a mystery being revealed to you. Here's the olive being sacrificed on an olive tree. He's being pressed, cold pressed, extra virgin. Verse 45, when he arose from his prayer and came to the disciples, he found them sleeping for sorrow. Then he said to them, why do you sleep? Rise and pray, lest you enter into temptation. So there you go with the first prayer. He is pressed, cold pressed on this spring morning. And this is after 9 o'clock at night, I should say. And he is praying, and he is feeling the agony he's allowing himself to feel the agony of this sacrifice that's coming upon him. Let's pick up the narrative in Matthew 26. Let's pick up the narrative in Matthew 26 of these prayers. Matthew 26, 40 through 42. We're doing these three prayers. Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and said to Cephas, Peter, what? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into the temptation. The Ruach indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. So they had to live by the Spirit, not by the flesh, not succumb to the flesh. Going down, and again, a second time, he went away and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup cannot pass from me, unless I drink it, your will be done. So there you go, praying again. And again, you can definitely believe that each prayer was an hour long. And he is praying earnestly and fervently for strength to continue on with this sacrifice, bearing all burdens of all the sins of all those in the book of life before him, and all those after this resurrection, to us, to our point and beyond, until he comes. He died for those before, whose names in the book of life, and those after the resurrection, to where we are right now, on this 17th of March 2024, the year of their Lord, until he comes. So about an hour each prayer. So now the second prayer ends at 11 o'clock. And then he goes to the third prayer. Let's go to verse 43 of Matthew 26. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Remember, Yahushua says, hey, you keep asking, the Father will answer. The Father will answer, and he said, your will be done. Verse 45. Then he came to his disciples and said to them, and by this time it's about 12 o'clock. Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. Wow, so that's going to bring us to Yochanan 18:1-11. And I want to do a narrative from the King James Version on this. Let's try to put our hearts and minds and feel this, the agony that Yahweh is going through. Let's try to feel this. Toda Yah. I'm going to go to Audio Bible of the King James Version, and we are going to, this is the Gospel according to John, and we're going to pick up this narrative of the betrayal. Okay? Let's see. This is deep. I want to us to feel this.
When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples over the brook Kidron, where there was a garden, which he and his disciples entered. And Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, for Jesus often met there with his disciples. Then Judas, having received a detachment of troops and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, came there with lanterns, torches, and weapons. Jesus, therefore, knowing all things that would come upon him, went forward.
Whom are you seeking?
Jesus of Nazareth.
I am he.
And Judas, who betrayed him, also stood with them. Now when he said to them, I am he, they drew back and fell to the ground.
I want to pause it right here, because the way that is read is not quite understood as to what really happened. These Roman soldiers, and it's about 6,000 of them. 6,000 of them. I had to research that. It was a half a legion. So whatever half a legion is, I think it's either 600 or 6,000. They coming, and they don't know who this man is. They don't know, but Yehuda, who's signed on to this betrayal, he knows who he is. And they come and they hear he says, I am. Haya, ani. I am he. Ani, you. And when he says this, remember, I am created all things. The power and the force of the revelation of who he was, saying that I am. Ani who. They fell back. These 1,000 soldiers, the force of that voice, they all fell back, including Yehuda. And when you read that, it does not give the true sense of the force of the might that was happening in that garden. He says, I am. And he's the only one that can say that. It means I've always existed, I am now, and I always will exist, even after you slay me on this tree. I am. So they fell back when he said that. Now watch this.
Then he asked them again,
Whom are you seeking?
Jesus of Nazareth.
I have told you that I am he. Therefore, if you seek me, let these go their way.
that the saying might be fulfilled which he spoke.
Of those whom you gave me, I have lost none.
Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus.
Put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me?
Then the detachment of troops and the captain and the officers of the Jews arrested Jesus and bound him.
So now they arrest him and they bound him. Have mercy. Yahweh, help me. So we see that the power of the word of Yahweh says, I am, and they fell back when the creator, the one who created them, hit them. That voice, that power, they fell back. Yehuda, coming and betrays Yahushua with a kiss. And we're going to visit this kiss covenant. I want to really stop it right here. I want to go into Psalm 2. Because he was betrayed with a kiss. And why is that? Why was he betrayed with a kiss? Why was Yahushua betrayed with a kiss? Well, it's called the kiss covenant. Let's go to Psalm 2. This is about the Messiah's triumph and kingdom. Every Hebrew knew this one well. They all knew this one well because this is what they looked for. This is what they hoped for. This is what they believed in. Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against Yahweh and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens will laugh. The sovereign will look at them and will hold them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. Yet I have set my king on my Kodesh hill on Zion. So here they are. Yahweh has set his king on this Kodesh hill. And he's laughing at their folly, their plots against him. Like they're going to destroy this man. I will declare the decree. Yahweh has said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. Yahweh sure at that time, remember, he said, I can send, this was my kingdom now, I can call on legions of angels. You got a half a legion. I can send 12, 24 times that to kill you, destroy you now, and take this kingdom now. But Yahweh sure prayed the prayer. You heard it 3 times. Your will be done, not mine. It was not Yahweh's will for Yahweh sure to take the kingdom now. And that is what Yehuda got wrong. He was trying to force Yahweh Shua's hand to take it now. Even the disciples didn't understand. The other 11 didn't understand. They wanted to be taken now. Peter sliced off Malchus's ear. He was ready to defend the kingdom now, to take it now. That was what their mind was. But it says right here in verse 8 of Psalm 2, hey, Yahweh says, you ask. You can have it now. You want it now. But Yahweh Shua said, Father, it is your will, not my will. Because the flesh would have said, do it now, because I am innocent. I've done nothing wrong. This is a deep psalm here, and I'm sure that you're not really getting until now. Verse 9. You will break them with a rod of iron. You will dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. So every last Hebrew knew about this promise, this prophecy. And they were looking for it. And they were looking for it now. That's why Yehuda betrayed. He believed that he was going to get Yahshua to not take what he was saying that he was going to suffer, but that he was going to do it now. Verse 10. Now therefore be wise, O kings, be instructed, you judges of the earth. Serve Yahweh with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all those who put their trust in him. This is the kiss covenant. Yehuda is trying to force the hand of Yahweh Shua to go forth and usurp his throne. He believed that he was going to do this, and that's why he kissed him. A man that you kiss is a man that you will go to war with. If you can trust a man enough to be close enough to him that you kiss him, that's the man you will die for. This is the kiss covenant. The man you kiss is the man you will die for in war. Nevertheless, Yehuda had Yahushua boxed into his way, his thinking. Just like when Peter said that far be it from you, master, that you will suffer and die. Yahushua told him, get behind me, Satan. You're not mindful of the ways of Yahweh, but you're mindful of your own ways. So of course, Peter, he repents from that, even though he did slice out that Malchus's ear. He still had that thinking, but he did not in his heart betray Yahushua. Yehuda was going to go, he went all the way. Yehuda Iscariot went all the way. He wanted to force Yahushua's hand to declare his kingdom now, to remove the yoke of the Romans off their neck now. And that's what the kiss covenant was all about. So let's go back to this narrative in the garden of this betrayal.
May be fulfilled which he spoke.
Of those whom you gave me, I have lost none.
Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus.
Put your sword into the sheath. Shall I not drink the cup which my Father has given me?
Then the detachment of troops and the captain and the officers of the Jews arrested Jesus and bound him. And they led him away to Annas first, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest that year. Now it was Caiaphas who advised the Jews that it was expedient that one man should die for the people.
So here we go. They're rushing through this trial. Why? Because Passover is coming up, and Passover is a Shabbat. So they got to do this before the next night, the next evening. They are one day away from Pesach, actually less than a day from Pesach. So they rush him off to trial. Let's pick this up in John 21:20. Let's pick up the narrative from John 21:20. So the trial goes on. I'm not going to go into the trial, but we know he goes to Annas first, and then Caiaphas. We're going to pick that up next week. That's what we're going to do. We're going to pick up him going to Annas and then to Caiaphas' house. We're going to pick up that next week. But the thing about this, I want you to understand today. And let's go back to let's go back to our theme music here. This is so deep. I'm hoping that Yahweh blesses you to receive the emotional tug here is going on here with me. And that we should be feeling for the sacrifice that's going on. What's going on in this garden. This heaviness that's going on in this garden. And realize that they did not even know what was going on. They did not know that Judas at that time betrayed Yahweh. They did not. If you go to John 21:20, this is after the resurrection. Listen to this, John 21:20. Then Peter, turning around, saw the disciple whom Yahshua loved following him, who also had leaned on his breast at the supper, and said, Master, who is the one who betrayed you? So this is after the resurrection. And after Yahshua appeared to them, Peter's still asking, who's the one that betrayed you? Because you're going to find out, if you read this thing diligently, study this thing, Yehuda was there with Yahshua at the trial of Annas and Caiaphas. And we know Peter was out there too in the wings looking on. They did not believe that Yehuda, who was a priest, that's why he had rights and authority to go into the temple. They thought that he was probably advocating for Yahweh. They thought that he was speaking for Yahweh. They did not know that Yehuda at that time betrayed the master. They still had their thinking of Yah. And let's go to Acts 1:6. Acts 1:6. They still did not know what's going on. They says, therefore, when they had come together, they asked him, saying, Master, will you at this time restore the kingdom of Israel? This is now when Yahshua is getting ready to ascend back to heaven. They still did not understand. They thinking that, okay, now you're going to take the kingdom? Now you're going to just take the yoke of the Romans off our necks? So we see here that in John 21:20, they still didn't know that Yehuda betrayed Yahweh. And in Acts 1:6, after he was getting ready to ascend, they did not believe that Yahweh was going to come back later They didn't know the grand plan of saving the whole world. They still saw just Israel being saved and the Romans being defeated. But Yahweh Shua is greater than that. He is to be a light to them all, and they were going to be that light. So we're going to pick up, because I'm going to be saying some things next week that you haven't heard before, about how Yehuda, they were no different than Yehuda. Peter tried to defend Yahushua. They still believed that Yahushua was going to remove the yoke from the Romans' neck. And they did not know that Yehuda betrayed Yahushua. They thought he was defending him. But we know that was not the case. They didn't learn that until later. They didn't once they put it together. So we're going to pick up this narrative, this deep narrative. We're going to start with the trials that happened upon the innocent man Yahushua for us. Toda Yah.